Anybody here can get it. Treat the game like a scrimmage now. Master B with the flow. I swear nigga got no limits now. I've been ballin' for a minute. Whole team full of winners. Anybody here can get it. You tuned into the realest now. Anybody here can get it. Treat the game like a scrimmage now. Master B with the flow. I swear nigga got no limits now. I've been ballin' for a minute. Whole team full of winners. Anybody here can get it.
Hey team, Off the Platform, episode 14. Jackson, as always, joined by Greg Turrell. He's actually labelled as Hamish Coulter, though. You better sort that out, mate.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, I'll fix that later on.
How you doing there, mate? All good?
I'm all good, man. I'm all good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Awesome.
And then we are also joined this episode by Mr. Chris Kennedy. How are you, sir?
Chris Kennedy.
Pretty good.
What number in the world were you for the 74s? Sorry, it's was it top three? No.
Top four.
Four. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to rub salt in the wound.
I wish.
But so yeah, top four in the world for the 74s in the IPF. Some huge numbers, man. You did a 10 times body weight total.
Yeah, I was going to say that. 10 times body weight, eh?
Yeah, that was a big milestone for me last year.
Massive. You also got your masters in sports science.
Yep.
Cool. What's that majoring in?
So my thesis was on Olympic weightlifting, so just the biomechanics of the power snatch with 3 different grips, so lifting straps, close grip, and hook grip.
Wow.
I bet you could have gone down an absolute rabbit hole with that one.
Oh yeah, like I went around about probably like 10 to 15 different rabbit holes in that one, but yeah.
But what's the makeup of a thesis? I mean, how many words makes up a thesis these days?
Typically for a master's around about 20,000 words.
Wow, 20,000 words on Olympic lifting. Crazy.
On one lift.
Yeah,
is it one lift?
That's just on the power snatch.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's ludicrous.
That's a few podcast episodes. I had to break that down.
Yeah, man. That's
Yeah.
cool though. So he's obviously brains and brawn. So your best lifts, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is in competition. You might have done more in the gym.
Mhm.
A 275 squat.
Yep.
Knee sleeves and belt only. Yep. A 180 bench
Mhm.
and a 300 deadlift.
Yep, that's the one.
That's dope. And all are under 74.
Yeah.
That's mad. That deadlift's 4 times body weight.
Yeah, true, yeah. Yeah, I
That's
think I weighed in at 73.8 on that day. Like
That was Auckland Provincials last year, yeah?
Yep.
Cool. Where was that?
That was at Colmar in Auckland and Papatoto.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
That's
Where do you
where they-
usually... Sorry, here you go.
Oh, that's like where they normally hold that regional comp.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so where do you usually train?
Normally I trained at Flex Fitness in Takapuna.
Oh, that's where Kate trains. You know Kate?
Oh, we had Kate on last
Mitchell
week.
then as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she trains there as well. They've got a few powerlifters there now just because they've got some comp equipment.
Oh, what have they got?
They've got a competition Alico bar for powerlifting, and they've got a bunch of steels. So they've probably got like 500-600 kilo worth of steel plates. They just don't have like the comp rack in that at the moment, but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because that's pretty. I mean, I go to functional fitness in Wairau, which is okay. It's good enough. Mainly bodybuilders. But it'd be nice to go somewhere with a bit of decent gear, Well, they've got decent gear, I shouldn't say that, but they haven't got any specific powerlifting gear.
Yeah.
No,
it's pretty cool to see in like a commercial gym as well, which don't really see that much.
No, you don't, hey.
It's a big step up in New Zealand, having the commercial gym set up with the comp set up. It's relatively common over in Aussie. You see a lot of the snap fitnesses and stuff have gone that way.
Yeah.
So hopefully a bit more of it happens here.
Yeah.
Oh,
what if it's got something to do with just greater access or easier access to equipment? There's suppliers over in Aussie that are
Always.
making.
Always.
We're only kind of just sort of breaking ground here with terms of people that are making the equipment, or even steel plates still aren't really a thing. No one's making bars, but it's probably just a matter of time, surely.
I remember talking to Scott at some stage, Scott Wasson, and he was making those Valhalla benches, and he had like a group of Snap Fitnesses that bought like 100 at a time.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Just like, because he was there making them, and they're like, sweet, well, we want them in this many snaps. Because over there they're commercially owned. I think they're not a franchise, whereas here they're franchises, most of them.
So Chris, just looking at your powerlifting history, before we go into your actual history, which is fascinating, your powerlifting history is relatively brief, isn't it? I mean, I've got competition going back to 2017, so nothing before 2017, I gather.
No competitions before that.
No. Okay. So just in basically just 3 years of competing, maintaining, give or take, maintaining that 75, 74. You went up to 80 at one stage, in 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, that was like just before World Champs. We didn't want to do a weight cut too close to it, so we just went 83s. Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you feel quite comfortable? What's most natural for you in terms of that body weight?
When I'm training powerlifting, I normally hover around about 77 kilos. As soon as I add any kind of cardio or anything, I just drop way too fast. But during my powerlifting days, I pretty much hovered around about 77, 78 consistently for the whole 3 years. Yeah.
So your results have they fluctuate a bit, don't they? They go up, then they go down a bit, then they go back up again. Is that just you getting to grips with the different environments you're competing in, or experimenting with body weight, or is it the competitions themselves that have differed and had different effect on you?
Yeah, a lot of experimenting each time. So I played around with some sumo and conventional throughout the time, which my sumo brought my lifts down a bit just because I couldn't get the hang of it. So competitions where I did sumo, my deadlift typically was lower. And then same thing with squatting, and that I injured my back a few times. So my squat progress kind of went a little bit up and down. And then with bench press, I had shoulder problems as well, which I was playing around with bench press width. Also fluctuated my results as well. So some comps I'd tried it wider, some I tried it closer. Yeah.
What's the best for you in terms of that outcome?
So bench press close, pretty much as close as I'm allowed. My pinky is on the ring. Squats, relatively close stance as well with my feet.
Yep.
And then deadlift conventional.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm the same. I used to go quite wide, but it took a real toll on my shoulders as well. So I go quite narrow with my benching now. I've not tried sumo. It doesn't seem to work for me. I think there's biomechanics, which I'm sure Jackson can go into. But I think you're either built for sumo or you're not. That's my personal opinion. Jackson, would you agree? Or
yeah, I mean, yeah, sumo is much more of a. That's why you see a lot of the smaller guys doing it. That's why I've said, although Chris is built for an 80 kilo dude, he's jacked. So you can see why he would do conventional. Would you agree, Chris? You're quite muscular for an 80 kilo dude.
Yeah, sumo just didn't agree with me at all.
Yeah, sumo for those lighter guys especially, and girls, it seems to just be you can get more technically proficient at it, whereas conventional you can just muscle it a wee bit. Yeah, whereas sumo, if you don't have it down packed, don't bother. There's no point.
I once saw a formula around the width of your torso versus the length of your arms and so forth. I don't know if that's bro science or not, but I mean, I can clearly see the longer your arms, the less obviously plane of travel that you've got to go through with the sumo.
It's the same with conventional though.
Yeah.
That's just deadlifts in general, but then it sucks for bench.
Yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, you watch Yuri deadlift, and it's got to go 2 feet off the ground, and he's
it's sumo, but it's beautiful. That's a beautiful deadlift. That's thousands and thousands and thousands of perfect reps in training. I don't know if you see, Chris, I'd be interested to see your thoughts on this, but what do you reckon about in training? Obviously he goes nowhere near failure. It's all technically very, very proficient reps in training. So there's those two trains of thought, how someone goes balls to the wall every session, or do you keep things more you stay in the pocket and save that for comps?
For me personally, or
or what do you think is what's your sort of outlook on that? Would you say how would you train people, or would you for yourself as well?
So for like just using me as an example, the only like I like the technically proficient one for a longer period of time, but the lifting heavy and kind of going almost like balls to the wall, or at least close to, helps me mentally get a little bit more confident closer to the competition. So without it, I just like I don't feel as confident without it. But if I do it too much, it destroys me. Whereas when I just do technique over and over and over, then I still find that that's pretty good for me as well. But as long as I keep like confident in my head that I can hold some heavy weight.
Yeah, so you sort of almost got to trust the process. That's
Yeah.
one thing that's quite hard for people to get through their heads, is that you don't have to touch heavy weight all the time to know that you're still strong.
Yeah, I guess that's where like a good coach kind of comes in. Like when Kedrick was coaching me for the comp, just to keep reminding me to trust the process and all that kind of stuff, which definitely helped. Whereas if I was just myself, I probably would have gone balls to the wall a little bit more often. Because you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The temptation is high, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if I can still bench that. Oh, can I
Yeah.
beat it? I don't know. I feel pretty good today.
Feeling good today, yeah.
You know, there's so obviously you're a smart dude, but you still had coaches.
Yep. I had coaches pretty much the whole way through. Otherwise I just get too into the moment sometimes. So I just need some accountability. Like even though I know it wouldn't be good for me long term, I still did it. Like if I didn't have a coach. And I also like just having other people's input as well, because I know that they see things that I can't see, and I probably become biased towards myself sometimes. So having external influence definitely helped me stay on track a lot longer.
I feel like it does seem to be that way, that even if you are smart enough to do it yourself, it is also the more intelligent people then aren't scared to reach out and take help from others as well.
Exactly, yeah. And if you look at all the top lifters in the world as well, like everyone's got a coach, so it just kind of makes sense to kind of follow the trend with that anyway. So yeah,
it's almost like a partnership, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, you've got that second set of eyes, that that unbiased opinion, and that probably somebody that's while you're in the moment, you've got someone that's got a calm, level head to say, no, hold off a bit. Don't take a 20-kilo jump between second and third. You don't need to exactly take a 5-kilo jump and you'll win.
Yeah, especially when you're like dieting as well, closer to comps. I feel like when you're like dieting, you get like you get a little bit more ups and downs, which can kind of influence the way you approach training. And just having the coach be like, no, it's all good, is kind of just enough sometimes.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to feel great right now.
Like, simple words like that, it's like fine. But if you're like by yourself, you're like, oh my god, it's the end of the world. Like,
yeah. I always find that odd sometimes when you're having a bit of a rough session, or what you think is a rough session. You do a lift, and you sit there, and then that was shit, and then you go and watch the video that you've taken, and you're like, wait, is this an old video? Like, is that the same lift? It moves so much faster than it feels.
100%.
So it definitely pays to have a coach and someone external to look over it, with an unbiased opinion.
Yeah, fully agree.
Right, let's take a pause on the lifting for a sec, because I think one of the most interesting things about you, Chris, is you've got a very interesting history, to say the least. Do you want to take us back to the very beginning? Because you grew up in, was it Timaru?
I grew up in like Christchurch until intermediate, and then I moved to Ashburton / Timaru.
Okay. What was that like growing up in Ashburton / Timaru?
Yeah, it was good there. Like I went to high school in Ashburton for a wee while, but I got like kicked out from there, so I got sent to boarding school in Timaru. That's kind of where the / Timaru kind of happens, because I went to boarding school and lived there for almost a year.
Yeah, was it like a boys only school? Was it? Yeah,
it was Timaru Boys High, so it was like you just stay there for the semesters and like come home in the holidays.
Yeah.
Yep.
And what happened in the boarding school? Was that a smooth ride, or?
I ended up getting kicked out of there as well. So like I had a skateboarding passion back then, and like skateboarding wasn't really cheap when you're like snapping skateboards quite frequently. And it was quite hard to get a job because you're living between two towns. So like employers weren't really like keen on that when you're like living here sometimes, but also living in Ashburton sometimes, and like it's just got a little bit messy. So me and my friends decided to start like a marijuana selling business, which we use like our school project to kind of do some research about like how to properly like germinate everything and make good plants and how to sell it and how much like all the stuff which was part of our school project, and we made a poster about it and everything.
Oh wow, was it sanctioned by the school?
Yeah, it was a drug it was like one of those drug and alcohol classes and all that kind of stuff where they teach you that they're bad. So you're like, the poster wasn't like how to grow marijuana. Yeah. It was like the negative effects of it, but we just used that to do the research about it because all the computers were monitored at school.
Oh, okay.
So we had to like use something to kind of like not get like eyes on us for like searching how to like grow marijuana. Like,
yeah. So so you were in the horticultural class at any stage, or was this all the research was done outside of the class and online?
Yeah, just all the research was done outside of the class and online.
Okay.
To do with our live project on how marijuana is bad for you.
Wow. Okay. So you you grew it on the premises or at home or?
Yeah. So I did all the like germinating and all that kind of stuff in my locker at school. I was kind of lucky in that part there because my locker was like it has a hot water pipe through it.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So that was like the perfect environment for it. And then like where I actually started growing them was on top of the bike shed out the back of the hostel.
Okay.
It was like this big shed, and it had like trees all around it, so it was like hidden, but it still got like sunlight, and it was kind of protected from the wind and all this kind of stuff. Like we kind of like put a decent amount of thought into it.
You did, eh? That's classic. Excellent.
But yeah, we just started growing them up all on there. But just how it actually happened. So like my plants didn't actually get that big because I got caught before they actually grew. But what actually happened is there was a guy in the hostel, and he said that his like dad smoked weed, and I was like, oh, true. Like, do you reckon you'll be able to like sneak some just so we could like maybe make a quick like $25 or $50 or whatever to get some stuff? And then he's like, oh yeah, no, all good. I mean, he like comes home from the weekend visit with a couple of ice cream containers full of weed. So what happened is he ended up stealing his dad's like entire weed stash.
I was gonna say that's a fair amount of weed.
Yeah.
And then he just like gave it to me, and I was like, oh, like, do you want anything for it? And he's like, no, it's all good. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like he gave it all to me, and then I took it back to the boys, and we like rolled it up and everything. This was at the point when the plants were probably only like, I don't know, like 20 centimeters high or whatever. So rolled everything completely up. There must have been about 4 or 5 ounces in total.
Wow.
All in my locker. I mean, I just started selling it around the school for a couple of weeks. I mean, like probably a week later, come back from the skate park. There's a police car out the front. They're waiting for me, the principal, the hostel manager, and all that kind of stuff. And then, I got expelled like that night. And then that was the end of my Timaru Boys High School days.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like you would have been an absolute legend at high school though. Like, you know what I mean? Like the boys, like at a boys only school, the boys would be like, this guy, this is the guy, you know. But yeah, looking back on it, it's like, oh, maybe that wasn't such a smart idea.
Nah, like it seemed smart at the time, but I keep forgetting that it was like illegal and shit. So.
Well, how old were you then? Like 14, 15?
15.
Yeah, I mean, you don't care. You don't think about that sort of stuff then.
Nah.
You just wanted, like you said, you just wanted to skateboard and you just wanted to make some money. Done.
Yeah, that's pretty much all to it. And then, yeah.
So yeah, 15, expelled for the second time, eh?
Yeah.
What happened next after that?
So because there was no other schools around, we managed to get me back into Ashburton College because there's only one like school there. But I had to like do some like drug counseling and all this kind of stuff for a wee while. So there was like an off period. I mean, I went back to Ashburton College, and to be honest, I was only there until I was 16 years old. I mean, I left and never came back. This is when I like left home and everything as well. So Just finished school at 16, and that was the end of my schooling days.
Wow. So and you moved out of home too, eh? 16.
Yeah, move / had to leave kind of thing.
Had to leave. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
What to and where to next after that?
yeah, so after this one here is when I had like a girlfriend at the time when I was 16. And I was like kind of semi living at her house, but like without her parents knowing about it. So like her parents worked night shift, and so I'll just like stay there through the night. I mean, I would like leave in the morning and just skateboard all day. I mean, like go back there and like sleep there like for the night, and then like skateboard all night, all day again, and just continuously do that. That didn't last too long because like one day like I was at the skate park and it was like near nighttime, and I was just messaging her, and then she started replying like just like she didn't sound like her. She was like just saying all this weird stuff like oh, I can't wait to see you and stuff, which she never like normally said. So I was like, oh, this is like weird. And she's like asking me when I was going to come over, and I'm like, oh, like soon. She said, oh, can you come over now? And I'm like, oh yeah, okay, like aren't your parents home? She's like, no, and I'm like, okay. So I like go there. It must have been like 8 o'clock at night or whatever. And I was like, man, this just sounds like so weird. Doesn't sound like her. I mean, like I go to the door, like knock on the door, and then like the sliding door opens, and it's like boom, her mom like
boom
got her phone, and her mom was scary as shit. Then yeah, she held me there for like a little while, and then took me for a massive walk down like this dark alley and shit. Like it was
wow. Bet you were shitting yourself.
Yeah. Then afterwards, it turned out all right because then her mum, where they worked, ended up getting me a job at the factory there, which is Tully's in Ashburton.
Oh, wow.
So then I just started working full time from there for a little while.
So you're 28, Chris?
Yeah, I'm 28 now. Yeah.
So that was obviously days of NCA and stuff. So you'd left school, no NCA level 1.
No, nothing.
No, so just finished year 10.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then just pro skateboarder almost.
Yeah, I want to be pro skateboarder.
So you're at Tally's. You enjoying that? Is that going places?
I did kind of enjoy the job a little bit because like the people there were awesome. They're like a bunch of Brazilians there, which would crack up, and they would like teach me how to speak Portuguese and shit. But where it actually changed was I met a dude there that ended up being my best friend for a wee while. I was 16 at the time, and like there was a group of us, and I before this, even when I was like selling the marijuana and all that kind of stuff, like I never smoked it, smoked cigarettes, or I'd never drunk an alcohol or anything before this. Just because I just skated, and I wasn't really a social person at school. Like I was probably one of those like antisocial kind of people, like quite shy and withdrawn, all that kind of stuff. So like I met this dude, and we kind of talked about like moving in with him kind of thing, like properly. At this time, I wasn't living at my girlfriend's house anymore. To be honest, I can't remember what happened, but I just didn't keep living there, and we ended up breaking up. But I was living at my car at this point when I met this guy. I can't remember what happened in between those two things, but I was living at my car anyway. And I met this dude, and then he one time he was at the skate park as well. And then it was one night where it was Halloween, and then him and another dude were like, yo, like there's a party in Timaru, like we should all go. I didn't really know these guys too well. And he's like, we should all like call in sick, because we all worked at Tallies. We should all call in sick and like go to Timaru to this party. And I'm like, oh shit, like it's probably gonna look dodgy or whatever, because like we're all in the same department and like we're the only ones there. He's like, no, I'll be all good. So I'm like, oh, okay, like I haven't been to a party before, so like this will be cool. So we all like called in sick, like one after the other. I was the last person, so I got like the
balls the
yeah, got the sigh from the boss. Well, I'm like, oh yeah, like but anyway, we like go to Timaru for the weekend, and like they managed to like sneak me into the clubs and all this kind of stuff, and I was only like 17 now, I think. And I had never partied before or drunken, so like, you know, the first time is always like super awesome.
Yeah.
Like all the energy and all that kind of stuff. I mean, in the morning, he's like, oh, I might just like stay here in Timaru, like, because he's from Timaru. And I'm like, oh, like, shit, like we came here in your car, yo, like, how are we gonna get home? And he's like, oh, like you can stay here too if you want. And I'm like, okay. So like that was like literally, and I just started living in Timaru from then. So I just like stayed living in Timaru for a little while, and then I just started getting other jobs here and there, until he ended up going to prison. And then yeah, it was just me in there after this, and a bunch of other stuff happened going forward, but it's just like small talk kind of stories.
Yeah. You know, I think back to those years, and it's almost, because I've got two boys. I've got a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old, and I think about all the situations that I got in as a teenager, and how it could have gone any one direction. You know, I used to party a lot. We used to go to dance parties, raves, and so forth. They were cool back in the day, and you know, you get mixed up with people, and you'd have all sorts of substances that are available to you, and you know that. You know, and I was one of the older ones, so the younger ones would come to me saying, "Hey, how do I get?" So I would get, and then I would, you know, partake in. And I look back and I think it could have easily gone any direction. You know, there's because you're impressionable, you're looking for, you've got friends around you. You know, all of a sudden you discover some popularity. You know, and it's almost a minefield. You know, I really, you know, I almost I get a little bit nervous when I think of my boys going out into the world at some stage, and meeting different types of people and all sorts of directions they can go in as well.
100%.
So so tell us what happened. The things are looking okay for you at this stage, or fairly bleak? You've got money coming in.
Yeah, so like it's like these few years were like lots of like up and down. So like I would be like on point for a wee while, like getting a good job and some kind of, well, I call it a good job, but like I enjoyed it back then, like in factories and all this kind of stuff. Like I had a bunch of random jobs here and there, and it was going like pretty good. And then I like started it was probably like when I turned like 18. That's when I like first started discovering like drugs. And yeah, I just started off with just weed. I mean, yeah, my drug dealer just started like introducing me to like new stuff every time I went over. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. And then I'll like give like ecstasy a go or whatever. And then I mean, I just started like putting stuff on tick for a wee while, and then like spending my whole pay on it, and like it just started growing a little bit. Which it still wasn't too bad at this point, but it got worse when I was in Timaru, and like just long story short, I just got like messed over by this dude. Like it was like pretty fucked up and shit. But he got me like real paranoid, and that I didn't want to sleep anymore. So this is kind of when I got like into P. That would have been, I don't know, maybe like 19, 18, somewhere around about that time. Yeah, I just started getting into P, so I didn't sleep. So I'd just stay at my curtains and just look out my window all the time. And yeah, that's kind of when I started getting the harder stuff, was just from that point there, when I knew that it was something that could keep me awake for a long period of time.
Which, I mean, it's self-perpetuating in terms of that paranoia, right? Obviously, the more or the less sleep you're having, the more your anxiety's raised, the more your paranoia as well. So it's just like it's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah, it just gets like worse and worse and worse. I think, which I guess is what creates the dependence on it, opposed to the actual drug itself.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy, because like you're obviously an intelligent dude. Like, you know, you're a very intelligent dude, and you still ended up in these situations. It's you know, people are always like, oh, it's this and that, and it's only silly people that get involved, and you know, you know, that you must be dumb to try it or whatever. But like this, you know, you're an example of a guy that just very, very intelligent, and then but still ended up in those situations. So it can happen to anyone.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
I was I grew up in I grew up in Auckland, but and it definitely didn't do it as hard as Chris has done it. But I would see various people of all walks of life who had been caught in that cycle. Incredibly intelligent, hardworking professionals, even. And often what would come down to was they were addicted to they felt great. You know, they would go out and they would party all night and they would have a great time. And then they would need to function at work the next day as well, you know, so they would their whole play hard, work hard. And so therefore that's how they used to get trapped in that as well. And these are very, very successful people. And of course, when P came around, P gave people that opportunity to you know, go all night and then go all day and then just carry on.
Yeah, because it's one of those ones where it's almost like you are still yourself, but you're just like on another level up, whereas like other drugs or whatever, it's like you don't have as much control and all that kind of stuff. But P is that real dangerous one where you can still like almost function properly, but just on a higher level kind of thing. It's real weird.
Yeah, I dated a girl once, and yeah,
Did you really?
Once.
Oh.
Yeah, don't tell my wife this, but
I would have thought.
Yeah. But she would smoke P all day long just to function, because she just couldn't function otherwise. And the other thing too was she was quite introverted and shy, but she would smoke P, and then she would be the life of the party, extroverted, and she was successful. But she felt the only way to do that was to take the P. You know.
You can see the appeal in that, eh? Because obviously, like, I mean, I know a few people and they'll have X, Y, and Z for partying and having a good time. And then, like you say, when it comes to working, well, you need something to come down from the high or to perk yourself back up, or, you know, so then you get into like the Ritalin or Adderall or whatever to get yourself back on track. And then you're like, oh, actually, hang on, well, now I need to let go a bit. Right, I'll go back to X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And so it becomes that whole polypharmacy thing, which I don't. But then obviously P, it sounds like that's the best of both worlds, almost. You know, I mean, not to advocate it, but you know, like you can see the temptation.
Sponsored by.
Not quite sponsored by Pepsi.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's probably the most dangerous part about it, I reckon. Is how functional you can be on it.
Yeah,
there's that great movie. I don't know if you guys have seen that great movie from. There's a movie about this. It's about a drug called modafinil. I think it's called modafinil. And who is that guy from? He did that movie with Lady Gaga. What's his name? Bradley Cooper. It's a Bradley Cooper film.
Oh, Limitless.
It's almost like that. You know, it's a simple drug, but it just turns his entire life around. But yeah, P's obviously not modafinil, so it's different story. So. I shouldn't be. We're almost like encouraging use, aren't we? No, we're not encouraging use. Anyone listening there. But Chris, so this is a cycle that's probably only ever going to go one way. So or have one outcome. So where did you end up? What happened after all this?
So like I was a little bit all over the show, like just moving here and there and all that kind of stuff. Probably like stories not really too much worth telling, but like where it ended up and the outcome was I was in Nelson for a while, and I got in a bit of trouble with someone. I ended up getting beaten up pretty bad, and this is when I kind of reached out to my family for the first time, and probably since I was like 16 or whatever. And they were living down in Chicago at this point, my dad and that. So he ended up getting me a bus ticket from Nelson for me to move back down and kind of like sort myself out a little bit. I think I was like probably like 19 at this point, 19 and a bit. And I went down to Chicago and I sorted myself out for a wee while. Like a wee while being a couple of months. And I got like into a little bit of training. Like the first thing that I did when I went down to Chicago, I got off the bus and then like I went into the room and I slept for ages, probably like a couple of days. And then I went on the treadmill and I just ran I ran for ages, like so long. It was real weird. Like I just randomly jumped on there and just like started running. I mean, I started sweating. I mean, I like kept on running and I started dripping and I like kept on running and I was on there for so long. And I started to get a little bit into fitness. because I started to feel good again. Like I was smoking cigarettes at this point, but I wasn't doing any drugs or anything. Like I ended up getting like a little job at a fish factory down in Bluff. And I even signed up to SIT and started doing mechanical engineering for a little bit. And then I don't know exactly what happened, but I ended up in Dunedin. I think one of my friends got out of prison or something, and I kind of reconnected with everyone. And I like left halfway through the semester of studying for mechanical engineering, and I just never came back. I just got back I got on the piss again and like started getting wasted, and I kind of felt like guilt. Like I didn't want to go back because I felt like kind of guilty that I messed my dad over or whatever, because I was doing real well and I left and started getting wasted again. I just had this real weird, like, I don't know how to explain it, but
no, it makes sense. I think, yeah.
We like, oh, fucked up. Like I might as well just like, yeah, kind of thing. So I just never went back. Like they were all messaging me, asking me like, you know, how I am and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, just something in me. I just didn't want to be a burden or whatever. So I just never went back. I was still like 19, just coming up to 20 almost. And then my mates all disappeared. We're in like Ashburton at this point. So I started in Dunedin, I mean, ended up in Ashburton. And then everyone just like disappeared. And it was like a real weird feeling. It was just like a realization where I'm like, fuck, I've like ditched my family, and like my mates now ditched me, and like I'm kind of like coming down now because I had no money and all this kind of stuff. Like it was just like a real not a good place.
Yeah.
And then like the most logical thing, but I thought at the time was like, shit, like what do I do? So I just thought about like what options I did kind of have. And one of those options was to like just go somewhere and sort myself out for a long time where I'm kind of like forced to be there. So I'm like, oh yeah, maybe like prison would be like, you know, that kind of thing. Rehab wasn't long enough in my head, I don't think. Like I needed something like long, like years long. So that's where the whole like prison idea came up in my head. And I'm like, shit, like, so what do I need to do to go to prison, but without like hurting anybody or like doing anything dramatically stupid. But also I needed to do something I'm going to go in there for a couple of like years because I needed that. So I mean, that's where the idea of like an armed robbery kind of came to my head, where I would just go into a shop, I would show a weapon, and just ask for the money somewhere where I knew nothing bad could kind of happen because I knew Ashburton. So then I just started thinking about that. Then I just went through with it. There was a party that I ended up going to, just some randoms party in Ashburton. The night before, I'm like, oh yeah, I might as well just have one last night of blah blah blah. Then in the morning, I think it was like a Sunday or something. I took some stuff from their house. I took a knife, a bunch of different clothes, balaclava, and all this stuff that I needed for this robbery. I mean, I just kind of planned it out a little bit, the best way that I could do it, the best one that I could choose where I knew nothing bad would happen, which ended up being in the end of Ashburton, which was closer to the motorway. Had a place nearby where I could get change and where I could run to and hide for a little bit in case the cops came. And yeah, I just did it. I had some clothes at this little park place. And then I walked down to the dairy. I had like sunglasses on. At the time I had like real long hair, so I put my hair into my beanie, so I made it look like I had short hair. I wore a bunch of jerseys to make it look like I was a bit more overweight than what I was, because I was quite skinny. And then I walked into the dairy. I just showed the weapon. It was quite far away, and it was across from this big counter. I knew this dairy, so I knew it wouldn't be like, I knew nothing bad could happen. And I just asked for the money. They gave me the money, and then I apologized to them afterwards. And then
at the time.
Yeah, at the time.
Wow.
was honestly a real shit feeling, like doing that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, like it was.
But you were desperate. You were desperate at the stage.
Yeah, like, yeah, it was just unreal. Like, you just feel real. Yeah, like well, I thought that I was doing the right thing for me at the time. Like, I need to go somewhere to sort my shit out, or else I'm probably going to go down the even worse path.
Yeah.
But at the price of doing something like this, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was quite bad.
But there was no other option to you that you knew of anyway to achieve what you had to achieve.
Yeah, at the time, no. But like now looking back at it, like I know that I should have just reached back out to my family. Like that was the best option. But I think just the male in me at the time, like, you know, how we're like too proud to ask for help sometimes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Kind of got the better of me. So yeah, I did that, and I kind of thought that I would get caught straight away afterwards because I wanted to get caught, but I didn't want it to seem like I wanted to get caught, if that makes sense. Because then, like, I'm like, fuck, like, what if that makes the sentence goes way down, or like, what if people found out in prison? I mean, like, did you
choose the crime based on what you knew would be the sentence, a typical sentence for that type of crime?
Kind of, yeah. Like I just knew it needed to be something that is kind of dramatic, because I just couldn't think of anything else at the time that would be like years worth in prison kind of thing.
Because standard robbery is probably a shorter sentence. Well, it is a shorter sentence than aggravated robbery, isn't it? Yeah. So like a normal robbery, I probably wouldn't have even gone to prison for it. Like I probably would have been home detention if I had like a place, which I knew wouldn't have been good, because that's people can still come over and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so adding the aggravated part obviously increases the severity. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So you're almost looking for like a crime where you know you're going to get a bigger sentence, but no one's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Which there's probably not many. You know what I mean? I guess prison sentences in theory go up.
Yeah.
With if people get hurt, so yeah.
And obviously, you weren't looking for 10 to 15 years, because that would just be terrible. But so 1 to 3 or something like that, eh? 1 to
Yeah, I was kind of hoping for around about 5.
Oh wow!
My sentence started at 5. 5 years old. Not 5 years old. 5 years. When I ended up, because I got caught maybe a month or 2 later after the robbery. Was like just before Christmas.
How did they figure that out like a month later?
I called them.
Oh, true. Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, like I don't know if they were on to me or not. But I was running out of resources. Like I was in Dunedin now, just living off couches and shit. And like because I like just left my job that I was in Invercargill, like they had that like big stand down from Winds in there. So like, you know, I couldn't even get on to a benefit. So like I wasn't earning any money, and I didn't have any money. You know, I was getting hungry and all this kind of stuff. And also paranoid too, because I'm like, shit, like just not knowing if they'll just come out on a random time or something, or like, I don't know, something dramatic. So I called Crime Stoppers Anonymous and just like said that I'm somebody else, and I'm like, yo, there's this Chris guy bragging about like a robbery he did in the clubs last night. I think he lives in this area, blah blah blah. And then they came and got me the next day.
And what was that like? Yeah. Was that almost a relief, or?
Yeah, it was a massive relief at that time. 'Cause I'm like, I can like be in one place, and I know that I'm like kind of forced to be in that one place now, which is kind of the outcome that I was aiming for out of that whole situation.
Yeah.
I mean, and as well now it's like everything is out, because you know, like when I don't know if you've ever like held like a lie or something in for so long, and then you say it, and then you just feel so good after it. Like you just feel like kind of leave, even though it's like might be a bad lie or whatever. but like when it comes out, you're like, like I don't have to hold that in anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of like that kind of feeling there, where it's like, okay, I've got nothing to hide anymore. Like this is what it is, and I can kind of be myself.
So did you pleaded guilty?
Yeah, so I went in initially because you know how I wanted to go on there for a longish period of time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, what can I do to make this sentence like go longer? So I'm like, okay, let's go not guilty.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because if you pleaded guilty, they might have said, well, okay, if you pleaded guilty for really early
6 months.
6 months, and that wouldn't have been enough for what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah. So I was like, not guilty. I mean, I like went into prison. I mean, I was on remand for a wee while, which is like where you're like waiting to get sentenced. So like when they hold you in custody, so you're in the prison, but you haven't got a sentence. So you're just like waiting for your next court date. So during that time in remand, because I was in there for a wee while, like, you know, a wee while, been a couple of months, I met like a bunch of guys in there that like, because my first day in, I don't know if you've heard my other stories in that, but like my first day in, straight away, like, you know, everyone was quite normal and all that kind of stuff. It was different to what I thought it would be. And there was like a bunch of guys all working out on the yard outside, because I went in and it was daytime when people were out. And like I had a few friends that had gone in there before, and they're like, you know, like whatever you do, like just don't hide in your cell, like try to get out and like socialize and like join in with a crew or whatever. And don't.
Like, why is that? Why is that recommended?
Just because it's like, it's when you're a prisoner, that's your home. So, and whenever somebody else comes in, they're coming into your home.
Yep.
So if they're hiding away in their cell, they can be looked at as like maybe they're too cool for us, or like maybe they don't think we're like cool enough for them, or like, you know, and then you start getting problems from that, like because everyone's looking for an issue in there, like everyone's bored. So like if someone's like hiding away from their cell, and they look like an easy victim, it's like just a recipe for like, oh, you think you're too cool for us, man, like, and then you're gonna get bullied. Yeah.
It's funny, we were talking, well, it's not funny, but Jackson and I, we were talking about how you would, especially guys, walk into a gym, and you are walking, it's almost like you're walking into someone's home as well.
Yeah.
And you're getting looked at from everyone's looking at you, wondering what you're up to. Who's this guy? I can imagine it's probably, 3 or 4 times worse walking into a prison exercise yard as well. So when you say there's gym equipment and outside?
No, so there was a gym in the Dunedin one that was available, but there was one gym for the whole prison. So each unit would get designated times where they could go to this gym. So it's machines only. There's no free weights. But
weapons,
now,
I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just like too dangerous as well, like because like the guards won't be able to spot anyone to save their lives, and like people will probably start getting pinned under the bench and like getting angry and then whacking each other with bars or whatever. So like it's just they have like machines. But I think now they've actually taken them away, because just before I got out, they started taking weights away, I'm pretty sure, and just providing like pull-up bars and that. I think it was or something, but
going CrossFit.
Yeah, so like it was a lot of body weight. Like my first workout when I first went in there, it was just like body weight, stuff, or we'll use ourselves as the weight. So like we'll get like a big like 120 kg guy or whatever to like sit on your shoulders, and then like you'll do some squats.
Yeah, that's creative.
Your shoulders or whatever, and you'll use like jerseys as like they'll pull on the jerseys, so you'll use them as like bicep curls and like tricep extensions and
I've heard you. So you've talked about this workout on previous podcasts, Chris. So I invite everyone to go back and listen to hypertrophy. You've talked about the hypertrophy podcast. I don't know the guy's name, but you've talked about it on there. So it was a 2 to 3 hour workout, and you just got absolutely smashed.
Yeah, like because that was the other thing I got told in there as well. I was like, you don't want to look like a little bitch. So like, and I was a skinny, tiny little twig, when I went in there. So I'm like, fuck, I've got to like not stopped straight away because like honestly after the first like 10 minutes I'm like fuck, like this shit's hard. You know, and then they're like, no, this is the warm-up, and I'm like, oh, fuck, like yes, it keeps on going. Or by the time we got to like the lunges and that's when like you know, I started spewing up, and then yeah, I kept on spewing like until I literally had nothing left in me.
That's just how you got the nickname, eh?
Yeah, got the old Chucky nickname there.
Chucky, yeah.
But yeah, like afterwards it was just awesome. Like I felt really good after that. Not just from the workout, but also the crew that was doing it, because like you know, like you're like spewing and then you're like your legs are shaking, you're like falling over, and they're all like cheering you on, like it was just unreal. And that's kind of where I just like really fell in love with like exercising and shit. So that went on for like a little bit during the remand period. I kept on working out with them, and I just started feeling real good, and I started to get my appetite back as well, and you know, the food's not the best in there, but it's also not the worst. Like, you know, you have enough nutrients to keep yourself up. So like getting all this new nutrients back into me, I started just feeling good, drinking water frequently. So by the time
you wouldn't have had that before. I mean, you probably weren't getting 3 meals a day and
no, like I was
working out.
Yeah, like because before I was just like living off like people that, because at the skate park was like golden, like if you're homeless, like hang around the skate parks, because like all the guys will like leave their fish and chips there that they didn't eat or whatever, so you can like just eat with them, or like if they leave it there then eat it after them, whatever. So yeah, you just have like chips or like just random shit here and there, but then like to go into like some at least semi-decent food inside, and also like water frequently, you know, start feeling really, really good. And so by the time I actually got to my sentencing date, I'm like, holy shit, like I feel really good. Like I don't want to be in here for 5 years. I want to get out and do this kind of stuff. So that's where I like kind of changed a little bit, but I still knew that I needed this 100%. But I pleaded guilty at this point. I mean, I got some time shaved off my sentence, so I got it taken down to 3 years and 1 month. That's what I got sentenced to on the day. And then, yeah.
So, so in prison for 3 years and 1 month. Did that go quickly or?
So I ended up doing 2 years out of that whole time. At the time, like during the process, it felt like forever. Like it felt so long.
I can imagine it's a bit like Groundhog Day most days.
Yeah.
Bit of a routine going on.
Yeah, like especially when you get, because you do get changed around quite a bit depending on what's happening. Because like I started in Dunedin prison, and then I like, because I had to do a rehab program, so I like ended up going to Paparoa prison in Christchurch for most of my time in Christchurch Men's. So I actually spent most of my time up there, but because it's so large, and I was on a waiting list for the rehab program, because in there, if you can do a program that's related to your crime, it's a really it's a quicker way to get parole. Like you kind of can't get parole without these programs.
Yeah.
And because mine was like drug related, I needed to go on to a rehab program, which was a massive waiting list, because there's like 1 in the South Island, or 2 in the South Island. 1 6-month one, which is in Christchurch prison, and 1 3-month one, which was in Dunedin. But because of my sentence duration, I had to do the 6-month one. So it was like a 1 year waiting list or whatever to get onto that. So I finally got onto that part there. But in between that, you're like swapping around different units, like here and there, depending on your security classification and all this kind of stuff.
Did you get in trouble at any stage?
No, not like in major trouble, just like the few minor things, like you know, like you can't swap your phone cards, like because bartering in there, because money doesn't exist in there, like so you'll have it like an account, but you can't like swap money and all that stuff, so you have to do like bartering. But bartering is legal in there, like you're not allowed to do that.
Okay. So,
yeah. Just the odd stuff like getting caught with somebody, because everything's named as well, like phone cards. So like I got caught a few times with somebody else's phone cards that had their name on it, which is a punishable offense, so you get put in the pound. in there.
The pound. That's a cool name for a gym.
So it's like the jail within the jail kind of thing. So it's just like isolation.
Yeah.
But that's like the biggest kind of trouble I got into, because everything else just and just like the odd like look kind of thing, but you can't really get in trouble for it. So like when you have to get like strip searched here and there, and like sometimes I'll be like black and blue because like you'll get beaten up frequently in there or whatever, or like you'll do like some conditioning shit. Like we used to do this conditioning thing in this one unit where you're just like literally like stay there, and then they'll just like beat the shit out of your torso for ages, like kick you and punch you, and like
These are the other inmates, not the guards.
Yeah, no, the other inmates. Yeah.
Wow, and they call that conditioning's got a different
yeah, it's like
different meaning for us.
That's like Rocky shit. Like that's old school boxing, man, where they'd like punch each other in the stomach to condition to it, or like drop medicine balls on each other. Like
it doesn't work.
No, fuck no, it just hurts.
Yeah, so like
it's like initiation.
Yeah, like it's horrible. But like you just get like random looks like that. Like you'll go through and get strip search, and you'll be like black and blue down. They'll like kind of start questioning you and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's as much trouble as I kind of got in. So pretty much nothing.
What do you do in that situation? You say, "Oh, I fell over. I tripped over my bed or something."
Like, just those stupid things that you say. Oh, I fell down the stairs. And it's like there's something. It's like, oh shit, like I hit a wall.
Yeah.
So what were the guards like? The guards that you had, were they helping you through this whole sentence, or?
Yeah, the guards in there are actually pretty good. Like they just came to like do their job, and they most of them knew what it's like in there kind of thing. Like, it's prison. It's not like fairyland or anything. So like they understood a lot of the things, and they would only kind of like they weren't like bad. Like they would only kind of do bad things if they actually had to do something. Like I don't know, like if a fight was right in front of them or whatever, then they would have to bring things into play or whatever. But like most of the time they'll just be chill and just let things kind of run their course, unless somebody was dramatically like in danger or something like that. So I guess their biggest thing was just making sure everyone's like alive and like functioning and okay and all that kind of stuff, and still there and not escaped. Yeah. One
thing that occurred to me, because I've listened to you tell the story before, that you've said that everybody is almost like on equal footing. You're all wearing the same clothes. You've all got access to the same amount of money or lack of money. It almost sounds like from a political point of view, almost sounds like a communist type environment. If everyone's equal, there's no hierarchy as such in terms of wealth. It's almost like a mini. It's a world within a world, isn't it? And I guess for many, there's probably a large amount of appeal in that as well, like knowing exactly what they're in store for every single day. They've got defined boundaries of what they can do, where they can go. Did you ever feel? Are there people in there that almost relish that? That they actually want to be there versus out in the real world, where they're potentially living on the street and having to fend for themselves, which is a lot harder.
100%, and that's a big reason why. Because like honestly, it really does work. Because a lot of people, when they go in there, and I've known a lot that have gone in there and they completely sort themselves out. They start training all the time. They've got like a routine. They're eating good and they're on the health bars, and like they're not doing anything. And then as soon as they get out, and that goes all out the window, and they start freaking out and all that kind of stuff, they get back into the bad stuff again. And they kind of, I guess, like subconsciously go back to prison on purpose. Like they'll do something stupid or whatever, and that's how the cycle happens here as well, is because, like you just said, like it is really appealing in there, because people know that once they go in there, they're going to have a routine. They're going to have a place to think, to stay in their own thoughts and like train and reflect and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, 100% people will continue to go in there, and I think a lot of the time, without them even realizing it, it's done subconsciously on purpose.
Yeah.
They'll do something to get caught, and then go back in there for another year and then come out and then go back again and then.
Exactly, yeah. Because like when you think about it, like when people do these like stupid little crimes where it's like it's 100% like they're gonna get caught. Like there's no way they just do that because like you know, I think they're secretly either asking for help or they're trying to just go back into where they know is like a little safe place where they can be equal again. They can feel like they fit in because it's impossible not to fit in. Like if you're wearing the same as everybody else, you know, you can't be. The most amount of money that you can have in your prison account is $70. So if you have $70, you're within the top like wealthy part of the unit, you know. Wow. So like it's not hard to feel like you fit in and you're somebody and you belong in there, which I think a lot of people crave, especially males.
Again, you can definitely see the temptation. Again, like same as, you know, because that's appealing for a lot of people. Like, I mean, we're quite gifted to be able to sit here and do this podcast and and have work on Monday and be able to train and eat properly. But a lot of people aren't that lucky.
Yeah, 100%. And like just a routine part, like people need to be told sometimes, like and opposed to like, because you know, like people like us now, like we can create our own routines like comfortably, right? Like, but some other people, they need someone to be like, okay, this is breakfast time, this is lunch time, this is dinner time, this is close the door, like, you know, like all that kind of stuff.
Chris, do you ever feel like you were, in your opinion, do you think prison works? Like, does it punish those who need punishing? Does it rehabilitate those who need rehabilitation? Or is it much more complicated than that?
Like I do reckon it works 100% because like what we were saying before, how people go in and they all sort themselves out like very quickly. The part that doesn't work is the part when they get released into society again, because in a way, like, because it's kind of a little bit messed up. The way that I see it in New Zealand is that prison works. It's focused a lot on like rehabilitation. Like the whole time, it's not really focused on punishment too much. But as soon as you get out, it's focused on punishment. So that's where the backwards thing is. It's because as soon as you get out, you're now labeled, and you've got all these restrictions on you. Like the public hates criminals, right? Or like criminals in quotations. So that's the part that doesn't work. Is it's real hard for prisoners to rehabilitate when they get out again because no one wants to employ them, or like minimal people want to employ them. Opportunities become minimal, like restrictions come up. And again, it just drives them back to go back to their comfortable place unless they really, really want to change. Like, like using me, for example, like I didn't want to go back and I wanted to study all that kind of stuff. But for people to actually have the determination or whatever to do that kind of stuff is quite hard, because you've got to create inspiration out of thin air, like, you know, from yourself as well, because no one else kind of believes in you at the time.
Yeah. And you go from this, I suppose, that atmosphere of, let's say, everyone's basically exactly the same. Everyone's exactly the same, to then coming out into the world and you affect like the perception of, like, say, criminals is that they're the bottom of society.
Exactly.
And so you come out into this world where everyone is against you, or feel like that, you know.
And it's irrespective of the crime, like irrespective of the severity of the crime. Like even, you know, you make one mistake like Chris did, and you're basically punished for I don't know how many years subsequent. I mean, it's taken, Chris, I know you've mentioned this before, right? But in terms of travel, in terms of employment, you've got that. How long does that record stay with you in terms of people that being able to reference that?
Until you die.
Wow.
Yeah, there is no there's no clean. In New Zealand, we think we have a clean slate law, but we don't really. With the clean slates after 7 years, that might be what you guys have heard of before, only is for people that haven't served a prison sentence. So like, if you like say got charged for assault or whatever, and you didn't go to prison, 7 years later you can apply for a clean slate and get it wiped, and now you have no criminal record. But if you spend 1 day in prison,
that's it.
That's it. That's on there forever. Like
crazy. So once you've been to prison, you've been to prison. That's it.
Yeah.
On prison, even 20 years later, if you're applying for something and it says, do you have a criminal record? You have to tick yes.
Yeah.
In most cases, it's treated as if it's happened yesterday, almost, you know?
Yeah.
That is mental.
I know when I was in my last job, actually even in my current job, I'm in the work in HR, and I've got people that do recruitment, and as soon as they see anything to do with aggravated whatever, it's an automatic no.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even actually, to be honest, I've heard them. It doesn't even matter if it's a prison sentence whatsoever, and you're one of 5 people, you're automatically, you're struck off the list automatically.
Yeah, exactly.
People have that perception that, oh, no, I don't want to, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, because it's on the paper, like there's no story behind it. It's just like,
no, exactly.
Robbery can be, if you read it on paper, it sounds quite bad, even just the aggravated part, like the wording and in general, everything about it just seems like you've gone into somewhere and beaten everybody up and stabbed them and took all their shit. Like it's it's not always.
What would you like to see? Like, what kind of changes? You've probably thought about this in the past. What would you like to see happen?
I like the way that they do things, like in like this other interview that I had a few years ago, where the guy was talking about how they do things, and I think it was some parts of the States where it's the employment process is when you're like applying for a job, you don't have to declare anything until you get shortlisted and get to speak to the interviewer in person. So you actually get a chance to let them see you and let them like kind of judge you in person opposed to on paper. So like things like that, as well as how they do things like in Scandinavian countries, which is like they've got some of the best stats in the world in regards to like people not going back to prison once they go in at one point. Like for example, they've got double our population, like 10 million people, whatever, and we've got half the amount of people incarcerated in prison.
Wow.
And of those people that go into prison, not many of them go back in. So the way that they're focused on is a lot on like rehabilitation, where what their theory is once someone has done their time, that's it. It's done. Don't talk about it ever again. Like it's because here, it kind of defeats the purpose of a prison sentence, because like if you get sentenced to 3 years, what does that mean? Like after 3 years, have you done? Like not really. You kind of get sentenced to life. Whereas over there, it's like your sentence is your sentence. If you get done for 5 years, you do your 5 years. After that 5th year, boom, you're one of us again. You can do the exact same as everybody else. You can work in, you can be a police officer. You can work in the government. Like you can do whatever, like because you've done your time. You've learned.
Yeah, you've done the time that they deemed necessary for the crime.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's it.
And it was like a purpose behind that sentence, because you need to have a reason. Like, why am I doing 3 years? Like, why 5 or whatever? Like, yeah.
What, Chris, for you, what doors have been shut or have you faced since coming out?
Well, at the start, it was like employment, but it was kind of like a blessing in disguise, because like if it wasn't for the struggle of getting jobs, I wouldn't have gone into study. I wouldn't have started a business. Like I wouldn't have done all these other things. But the thing that has impacted the most is probably travel. So like,
especially with competing as well, powerlifting.
Yeah, like it's quite stressful, even because a lot of the stuff on the internet is real like grey. Like you can't just search like, can you go to this country with a criminal record, because in some cases you can, in some cases you can't. Like it depends on who processes your stuff and all that kind of stuff. So it's quite nerve-wracking. And even if you get like accepted, you still could get declined at the border and like stuff like that. So it's
worst case, you could be there, couldn't you? Going through customs and they say no, you can't.
Exactly. Like that happened to me when I first went to Sweden, because World Champs was in Sweden in 2019. So we're like, oh shit, like I might test if we can go to Sweden like before Worlds, so I don't get like
test the waters.
Whatever. Yeah. So I bought a ticket because apparently you could just go in to Sweden, and I bought a ticket to go to Sweden, and we had a what do you call, like a changeover in Japan halfway through. And there was like a 12-hour one in Japan. So you had to check out and check back in again. So I went to Japan, like went to go through customs. My girlfriend at the time was there with me, and like she like just walked through, like checked out to go into Japan. I mean, I was like behind, and then you had to fill out those cards where it's like, do you have a criminal record, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, oh shit, like, so my brain was like, okay, I've got two options I could do right now. I can be honest and like be a good person and like tick yes, because I'm like a changed person, all that kind of stuff, or I could like tick no and lie and see what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck. So I was pondering on it for like their whole 12-hour flight. I mean, like I finally like got to the place and I'm like, oh fuck, okay, I'll put yes. I'll be honest because like surely that should be fine. I can explain myself and all that kind of stuff. So I put yes, went through to the thing, gave my card to the customs person. Straight away, he looks at me, picks up the phone, and I'm like, oh, is everything good? And he's just like, shh. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. I mean, he picks up the phone. I mean, like a few minutes later, I look behind and there's like some customs officers there, and I'm like, oh no. They're like, come with me, and I'm like, oh fuck. So they took me into this room. I mean, they're like, you can't come into this country with that, and like just pretty much just hammering me at this point here, and like, I had to like start organizing a way to get home at my own expense, and like I was almost going to be held there for a while until the next flight back, and like it's freaking out. This like my girlfriend's like gone, she has no idea what's going on, like she's checked out.
It's got shopping, eh?
Yeah. I was here for like a wee while, and then like this other guy comes in later on. He's like, this other Japanese guy. He's like, hey. And I'm like, oh yeah, what? And he's like, are you like stuck here? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, because what they did as well, they made me write down my whole criminal history, which wasn't just a robbery. I had like a bunch of other stuff as well. They made me write this all down, and then like they looked at it and they were like, they pretty much just started laughing at me, saying like, "Are you stupid for like trying to come into this country?" So I wrote down this big list, and this other guy's like, asking if I'm stuck and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, yeah, like I've ticked yes, and I've got this criminal record, and like I'm gonna be stuck here. And he's like, okay, what I'll do if I was you is I would scribble it all out, tick no, and tell them you accidentally tick yes. And I'm like, but like I wrote down my whole criminal record. And he's like, nah, just tell them you accidentally did that. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting set up now. Like, surely.
Yeah, this is.
I mean, I was like, okay, now I've got another two options. I can stay here with this yes in this big list and like hope that something good happens, or I can take this random stranger's advice and say, tick no and scribble it all out and say, oh shit, like I accidentally wrote this whole paragraph down. So I'm like, okay, like after pondering on it for like a couple of minutes, I'm like, okay, fuck it, like YOLO. So I like scribbled it all out, and then I ticked no. I mean, the customs officers come back in, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I accidentally
wrote that list.
And then no shit, they were like, oh, okay, you can come through. And I was like, holy shit, okay. Wow. The key is to always tick no.
I accidentally wrote down a list of crimes. Yeah. It's not just the simple tick. Like the tick is believable. But oh shit, sorry, I misread it. I don't have my glasses on. Whatever. Tick the wrong box. I accidentally wrote down.
I think it was like a paperwork.
I'd have the same dialogue in my head going, should I just say no? It's only a stopover. I'll just get away with it. It's Japan at the end of the day. You think, well, if it was like, Iraq or something, or Afghanistan, you probably want to definitely tick no because you don't want to end up in one of their prisons for 3 years while they sort you out. Yeah. Wow. And so getting into Sweden, no drama.
I don't know. I wish you was just walked straight through it.
You ticked no though, didn't you?
There was no box to tick.
There's no boxes.
True. Decent. Yeah. Nice.
But what I found out afterwards is that only America and Australia check. So like, because everything is done like electronically with them. So if you tick yes, it's going to come up straight away. But every other country, just for all the listeners out there, if you
off the platform exclusive, how to get around customs.
I know. Like that's a headline.
Tick no, like unless you are actually because at the end of the day they don't really care too much unless you're actually wanted by Interpol or whatever. they don't, because it's a lot of paperwork for them, and that's why I reckon they kind of let me through at that point, and they probably got someone else to like say no or whatever. Because
Funny, it's always someone's job, eh? It's just it's someone's got to do a job at the end of the day, and they think, "Oh, what's the easiest way to get away with this job?"
Yeah. And I suppose you're only going to be there for 12 hours. Like,
yeah, exactly.
they're like, I don't want to do 8 hours of paperwork for this guy.
I know.
You know.
Exactly.
So I thought Canada check as well. I thought because Canada.
Oh yeah, I think they do as well. Yeah, sorry, the whole of America. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I heard Canada's really tough to get into. Like even got a traffic fine. They don't let you in.
Canada's one of those ones where like even DIC, I think you can't even get in there. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, when we went to Canada, they want everything on the little form. It's like this includes da 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 da, and I was like, oh shit, oh nope, sweet, all good.
All good. Yeah. Jackson's squeaky clean, I think.
Mate, almost, you know, clean as.
Yeah.
Luckily.
So that holds you. I mean, obviously with powerlifting, especially with sports in general, there's give or take probably many competitions in the US, which you're just going to have trouble competing in, aren't you?
Yeah, like it's definitely possible to go anywhere, especially after this amount of time now. It's just a process. That's the only annoying part, is it could take, like for example, Australia is the same as America. I can't get into Australia.
Wow, it's only 3 hours away too.
Yeah, but I got in at the start of last year, but it took me a year of trying to get a visa and going through these processes and interviews and all that kind of stuff to get a temporary visa to get into Australia for 12 months. So I have to now renew it again and go through that whole process if I want to go back to Australia. Yeah. So it's definitely possible. It's just like
tedious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you do for work now, Chris, then?
I work at the university up in Auckland.
Cool.
So I do some work in the gym here, but I also just got a position lecturing as well for one of the personal trainer courses. So a bit of lecturing and gym supervising and all that kind of stuff.
What's the next and what the next few years, Chris? Any long-term goals in terms of that, or from a career point of view?
I would kind of like to see how far I can like take this lecturing thing. I enjoy teaching, but I'm not 100% too sure. I think I'm in that phase right now where I'm like a little bit like trying to decide. I'm getting closer to 30 and like just trying to decide what I really want to do for like the long period of time. So I've had a short period of things like that I just wanted to experience. But long-term wise, I'm still kind of getting in the rhythm a little bit, but that lecturing thing definitely is appealing to me.
Would you ever consider going back and doing a PhD to then carry on into the lecturing?
Yeah, like PhD is a definite that I'll do eventually, but I probably won't until maybe I'm like in my 30s kind of thing, or like got a lecturing position, a little bit more hours, like a little bit more stability, so I'm in the area and kind of study at the same time.
Yeah.
So you've just got your master's, haven't you? So that how long did that take?
The master's itself took 2 years, but my bachelor took 3 years, but I had to do some pre-courses as well before that for a year, so it took because I never finished school.
Yeah.
So it took me 6 years full-time study to get my master's.
Oh wow. And have you found that, been able to apply yourself? And I guess I've heard you talk about this before. Some of the classes involved a bit of travel, was it, or?
What do you mean? Sorry, for?
Oh, just going through the masters. Did the criminal record? Did that impact any of your ability to study?
Nah, not too much. At the very start, like for my undergrad, it did a little bit because it was when I got released, I was on home detention, so I had a bracelet on me. And a lot of the classes were like trips and all that kind of stuff. That's
what I've heard you say. Yeah, the trips. Yeah.
Yeah, like so it was like hard with that. It was still possible. Like I had to go through the process and that with probation to be able to do that. But yeah, just like little issues like that, they're just more annoying than anything. You just have to like sort out, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, with the lecturers and the teachers and so forth, were they quite accommodating and understanding?
So they didn't really know. I really like I honestly kept it quiet for because when I got out I was in a whole new town. So I kept it quiet for 4.5 years. Yeah, 4.5 years I kept it quiet. No one really knew because I almost started like a whole new life. I got new friends. Like I just started completely from the start again. Like no one had any idea until I moved to Auckland, and then I put out that post at one time, like saying it, and then that's kind of the first time that people actually knew about it.
What motivated you to do that?
It was kind of eating me up a little bit that I had this like, the secret or whatever that was like it was a major, like it still is like the biggest thing in my life that's happened, because like at the time like I experienced rock bottom, and then also like that experience of rock bottom helped me find my passion and all that kind of stuff. So like I don't think I would have found that without that part. So like this situation that was the biggest impact on my life, it was just inside of me, and I just kind of wanted to just let it out, just for that reason.
How have you found people's response?
It was good. But I think it was only good because people had, like, the ones that had got to know me for me, where I found I did tell the odd person like before that, just in person, but I found that if I told them too early or something, like it really influenced the way that they looked at me and got to know me going forward. So I found the best way for it was to get to know people first for a longer period of time and then say it. I mean, it's like, oh, I would never have known, or like something like that. So that was, like people took it good that actually knew me. Yeah. I don't know about the ones that didn't know me or whatever, but like my friends and all that kind of stuff, like they didn't really think much of it, to be honest.
I know this might sound like a strange question, but any regrets?
Yeah, like 100%. Like I was saying at the start, like I if I could go back, I would reach out to my family and friends, opposed to actually doing that robbery. That's my biggest regret. But it's one of those things where it's like, I wonder if I did that, would it have fixed me?
Like would you be sitting here right now telling us the story, finishing your masters and so forth, and lecturing?
Yeah,
if it hadn't happened. Yeah,
I could have gone somewhere worse. Like it could have been like a plaster, temporary, and then maybe I don't know. Maybe I went down an even deeper rock bottom later on and did something that actually impacted somebody's life or something like that. So it's one of those hard things where I do regret what I did, 100%. But then I also have to realize as well that might have saved something from later on or something like that. So so it's one of those tough ones where like
you will have during your younger years you would have seen many guys and girls probably in a similar situation as you are now. If does any part of you think, I wish I could reach out to them now, or I wish I could reach out to people that are in a similar position now that I was, and help them to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel, there is another way? Is that something that has crossed your mind?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the point with like the continuous posting on my Instagram, like back then, like which the people that I was kind of like trying to target towards were the ones that were in that kind of position, opposed to like just targeting the ones that are like, have got good lives and all that kind of stuff. Like, but it wasn't really working too much, because like I find that those people aren't really on social media and doing that kind of stuff. So I don't know, like I wish I could, but it's one of those things where I know that people have to want to change to be able to change. Like it's quite hard to be influenced too much to get to that point. I'm not too sure. I've been brainstorming it for years, like how it can like work and all that kind of stuff, but
does something need to change? Something need to change in society, and so we don't lose people like that down this path?
Yeah, well, I reckon there needs to be more acceptance. Like You know, kind of like how we're talking about in the Scandinavian countries and that, with people that have, you know, done something now to, like, you know, because when you think about it, sometimes like if when people come out of prison or whatever and they're like, I want to turn myself around now and all that kind of stuff, people just you know, fly to their eyes or whatever and be like, oh yeah, like we've heard that before, you know. So I think we need to have less of that kind of stuff and have more just, I don't know, believing in people, let them just do their thing, and yeah, instead of judgment and all that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it's still society.
Yeah. Do you see any role? I mean, I know it sounds almost like it's not really a thing, but did the lifting, did the, you know, the working out, did that play a role in helping you turn around, or was it just sort of like the, you know, the one small thing and amongst many things that happened? You know, is there any role in sounds almost stupid to say, but any role in powerlifting or any kind of lifting weights or that kind of working out that kind of helps people to channel their energies in a healthier way?
Yeah, so with that part there, exercise in general was my replacement of drugs. So that's how it really did help. Because I don't know exactly, but like for me personally, I feel like everyone has an addiction with something.
Yeah, 100%.
Just sometimes people fall into that addiction being something bad, like drugs or something. So I feel like people that are in those situations, they almost have to replace it with something.
Yeah.
And yeah, so for me it was exercise, but I feel like maybe not exercise for everyone. Somebody might be like I've known some people that were in there and it was drawing. Like they just fell in love with drawing and they sorted themselves out from there. Like they love drawing and then they played around with tattooing and now they've got like a real good tattoo business. So I think like maybe not the exercise itself, but if that does become something that could be like a passion or a love for somebody, 100% it can help them turn around. But some other people, it might be like drawing or rapping or singing or I don't know, like it could be anything. But I think that they have to replace it with something. And I think exercise is a good start for everybody because, you know, you get endorphins and all that kind of stuff and you feel good. Strength training, especially for males, like, you know, you're feeling strong and you're feeling masculine and all that kind of stuff. So I think strength training is a really good start for people in that position. 100%.
Yeah, you were saying earlier that the prisons if they taken equipment out, have they, versus replacement?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. But I don't know 100%. I know that they were taking some away when I was leaving, so that probably does make sense that they've taken more away. But yeah, I've been told a few stories, like apparently it was because like people were getting too intimidating and big or whatever, and
no such thing. No such thing as too big.
You must have seen some big boys in there though, eh?
Oh yeah, there were some big guys in there, right? Because like, yeah, especially if you're like just training and like eating and you've got some money coming through, like or if you're intimidating enough to go beat everybody else up and steal their food, or like
that'll be you, Jackson.
Hey, I'd be a fucking pussy. I'd look intimidating for about the first month until someone else stole all my food, and then I'd drink again and get beaten up.
Yeah. So what's sorry, carry on, Jackson.
Oh no, I was gonna say, so obviously, well, not obviously, but so last year's powerlifting, you've made the swap to MMA moving forward.
Yeah. Just kind of wanted to try this out for a while, just to kind of tick it off while I'm like young-ish enough to kind of try to. When I first got out, I got into like boxing and all that kind of stuff quite hard out, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was to the point where I was actually training to go up to a charity fight, and I applied for it. It's called Fight for Kids, and I applied for it. This was not long after I got out, and I got like declined, and I was like, oh damn, that sucks. But then I found out later on that it was because of my criminal record. So that's what actually stopped that part there and swapped me to started just lifting weights and all that kind of stuff. But now I've found that it's kind of changed a little bit now in that part there where it's still possible. So I'm like, oh, like I kind of want to re-tick that back off while I still can now, and then just kind of go from there, because powerlifting I've still got 12 years left and I'm open, so I'll definitely be back. But I've got more time in powerlifting than I do have in something like this. So
I mean, powerlifting you can just keep going, can't you? Really?
So I'll definitely be back, and I don't know. I'll see what happens after this first fight, and then I've got a fight in June. But
Cool.
I'll just see what happens from there.
Is that boxing or MMA?
MMA.
Cool. So there's only certain organizations that would class like a criminal record as a no-go?
I don't think so. No, I think it really depends. Like I don't think there's anything about it, because like even in the UFC, like there's people with criminal records.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah, so I think it's not as like, because it's more open now. Like there's more, even just regular people getting into it now. Like, you know, it's more accessible than back then. You know, you probably had to work up a little bit more and have different contacts, whatever. But right now, it's like a bit more accessible for most people to get into. So I think that's kind of what's changed about it and made it a little bit more appealing.
Yeah, it's cool. It's UFC's definitely put it on the map and made a lot more people be interested. You know, because they make a spectacle of it. It is a spectator sport.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No matter how far we think we've advanced as a society, there's nothing like just watching two guys beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
Well, it's like the arena in Rome, isn't it? You know,
it is
that mob mentality.
It is. It'll always be a thing.
Exactly. I don't know if we'll ever really evolve past that. Maybe one day, but not yet. Yeah. Personally, I love it too. It's great.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just conscious of the time. Chris, your story has been, I don't know, it's been off the charts.
Insane.
Yeah,
it's huge.
It's been awesome, eh? You're almost from rock bottom to, you know, scaling the heights of opportunity now, really, with everything you're doing. So I want to thank you for joining us. Before we go, do you want to give any shout outs or plugs for anyone or anything?
Just like shout out to Kedrick and that again for coaching me through that time period up to that fourth in the world last year. Team 3DMJ as well for helping me out with Worlds. And you guys as well for reaching out and having me on the podcast. So yeah, thank you.
No worries, mate.
Where can the fans find you, Chris? Because people will love this story. What's your Instagrams, etc., if they're looking for programming, coaching?
I'll add it to the description as well. So if you want people to come find you.
So I've got an Instagram at the moment that I'm using, Chris Kennedy NZ. My original Instagram is Chris Powerless, that I'm having a break from for a wee while I'm doing this MMA thing. But Chris Kennedy NZ is like my current Instagram that I'm using. That's the main platform that I'm kind of on mostly. So
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, man.
Cool.
Hey, all the best for the future. We'll be keeping an eye on you, and you're always welcome to come back on the podcast at some stage too. So thanks again, my friend.
Cool. Thanks so much.
Yeah, been great having you. Thanks, Chris.
Cheers, man.